Recording. Hello, Stu. Welcome back to the seventh episode of Dreadnought News, and
Uh,
good to have you back. And there was a by-election in Melbourne over the weekend. It's pretty
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, I saw. It's interesting. They were obviously the Liberals were obviously very happy with what happened. So, outside my train station, on Monday, they're out there campaigning for Chris, someone I can't remember who the Liberal candidate for Jagga Jagga will be, but
Mm.
um, yeah, Matthew Guy was there. So they're obviously feeling, let's seize the momentum.
Mm.
Because it
They
was,
they snatched a seat off the Greens, which I didn't think people suspected would happen, and they got unlucky
uh,
in.
yeah, I didn't actually know it was up for election because I wasn't paying all that much attention to the by-election. That actually does not surprise me at all. Um, the that southeast area of Melbourne, um, yeah. So like Paran should be like blue ribbon liberal.
I
So
think it
the
overlaps
reason
parts of Higgins and parts of Kooyong and all
it
that,
does, yeah,
which is now
yeah.
Teal's territory. So there is, yeah, Teal's are basically Greens. I think you shared it with me. I saw a graphic that the Teals have voted with the Greens like 80% of the time, and they've
Oh yeah,
even Allegra Spender, who was the one who had voted with the Greens the least, it was still like 78%. Like it was just they
yeah.
are basically Greens. Like that's what they are. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. So Allegra Spender today met with some Jewish activist uh, who is definitely Jewish, but also like a rabid Palestinian activist. Um, and yeah, she kept it all hush hush and under secret, so she didn't put it on Instagram or on her Twitter or anything like that. Um, but she had the meeting. She took the meeting with the pro-Palestinian activist. I've heard that she's supposed to be the intelligent one of the group, and
That's how
I've
she's presented. In fact, like I remember there was hand wringing amongst the liberal wets at the last election. Like, oh, Allegra Spender should be a liberal. She's a natural liberal. She's blue blood liberal royalty. No, she's just she's not a
strikes me as yeah, absolute
she's
white
not
collar
yeah, exactly.
tawdry crap.
She's not
Yeah.
welcome in the Liberal Party. I speak as an ex-Liberal member, so but still, she's antithetical to the Liberal Party beliefs, the way it's moving, and yeah,
Oh yeah,
Peter.
so yeah, and they're not even particularly shy about how antithetical they are. Like if you take the Forgotten People speech and what's Menzies, is it his essay like "This is who we are" or something like that? She doesn't believe in a fucking word of that because she routinely advocates for policies that are antithetical to like the core of the Menzies vision of the Liberal Party.
Hmm.
And I think the Liberal Party will do a lot better when it gets back to those fundamental roots and stops with the social engineering crap.
Oh, 100%.
But it actually doesn't surprise me all that much because the Melbourne Greens are rabid, disgusting, out of control anti-Semite. And well, I mean they are.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean they just hate Jews. It's really that simple. So if you're in an area that has a reasonably high number of Jewish constituents, which that section of Melbourne does,
Prioran is one of the most highest concentration of Jewish people in Australia,
yeah,
and the other hot spot is, of course, Wentworth, where Allegra Spender is the member. So
yeah,
yeah,
and
I
she's up
really
there
hope.
meeting with people who think that Jews should be raped and murdered.
I don't know. I actually did do some analysis using Chat GPT and it hallucinated a bit, and that is the risk when you use AI. But anyway, I'll share what the results were. Now, I wrote this before the weekend when the Liberals beat the Greens. I was surprised by that, and I was encouraged by that. If we can say the Teals are analog, analogous to the Greens, then maybe we can get some seats off the Teals. But even if we don't, even if all the Teals retain their seats, which God forbid, but let's just hypothetically say, even they do, except for Kylie Tink, because her seat has been abolished and sucked in. You silly cow. But even if, and so yeah, even if the one at Manly, what was her name? The gap tooth one. Oh, anyway,
But
the one who beat
gee,
Tony
hold on,
Abbott.
sorry. Labour hold Bennelong by 6.9%.
Okay, no, so this was ChatGPT hallucinating a bit, and I think it confused this number with the swing. So Bennelong is only on a very tiny margin. So that was the swing towards Labor, I believe, in the previous election. So
Yeah.
so unfortunately, New South Wales, which has been pretty strong for the Libs, I think um yeah, it's not going to be that lucrative this time. But those are the four seats that I've identified as held by Labor currently, and the Libs should target these. I do think they'll get Bennelong easily.
Oh, I would think so. John Howard's seat.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and then yeah, and John Alexander as well. He was a good member. So and the current one, Jerome Laxall, is a complete peanut. So anyway, let's hope they do all right in New South Wales, but I really think the Libs are going to do well in Victoria, as we saw over the weekend with the results in the
Yeah.
by-election.
Well, look, I
Now,
mean,
you have previously said Jagger is not on the table, but there are other ones in play, um, such as
I
Karangamite. Karangamite should be here instead of Jagger, maybe.
yeah, perhaps. I It's not on the table. But like Kate Thwaite is uh she's a milquetoast, presents well, can speak well. Um,
But you saw that 10% swing against Labor in not in Prahran, in the other seat. I forget what it was called.
in no, it wasn't 10% of Werribee, it was 16%.
Yeah, 16% swing. But Labor had like a two in
But the
front of their
trouble is,
primary.
though, there is that it's important not to confuse the stink of the current state Labor government with what will happen federally. The two are
No,
linked.
true.
I don't think there's that strong a correlation. I don't.
It,
Werribee is roll gold Labor.
I know it is, and they suffered a huge swing against it. Now, here's my point: is yes, the Jacinta Allen government is on the nose, but so is the Albanese government. And the difference I'm saying is the Liberal Party in Victoria has performed terribly, whereas Peter
Oh,
Dutton has
yes.
performed very well. Unfortunately, when I was in Melbourne in 2018, I lived in Melbourne, and people hated Peter Dutton at that time. I don't know if that's changed. That was 7 years ago, though, so it might have changed since then.
I
I,
don't
I,
think it's changed.
I don't
No,
know. I get the feeling Victoria is going to have a bigger swing than what people are thinking.
I think you're probably right there, but who knows exactly what will be driving that? I can tell you right here, right now, that it will not be any particular uh personal attraction to Peter Dutton. But then I don't know, man. Like
He's performed really well for the last
it
year, ever
I
since The
like him.
Voice, actually. Ever since
I
The
like
Voice,
him.
he's performed well.
Yeah, and the facts are that the last election that he had some major sway over in Victoria, being the voice referendum, he won
Mm,
convincingly in
mm,
Victoria.
mm.
Um, so I think, yeah, I Victoria is there's certainly the potential to do well, and I agree with you. Like I agree with you, 100%. To be honest, I say, um, to the teal seats. Um, I like. I would rather eat Labor's lunch than sweat a couple of seats
Yeah, I don't
in.
want the Libs moving towards the left to try and capture those teal seats. No, I
Oh,
want
well,
them
I
to
don't think I
focus.
meant. Yeah, I think I think moving towards the left is perhaps not the right way to describe it because I think what we're the working class has been inherently conservative since forever, is my general view. So socially conservative. Now, what's that? What's that phrase? Economically conservative, but socially liberal.
Mm.
That's that's the demographic that Malcolm Turnbull tried to chase, and there's like 10 fucking people in it. Um, Whereas if you reverse that, so economically socialist and socially conservative, that's like at least 30% of the electorate right there.
Well, yeah, that's what Donald Trump turned into gold.
Yeah.
He
So
spun straw into gold.
there's no reason not to be mining it because the Labor Party have shown that they don't give a fuck about it.
Mm.
They spit in their face every opportunity. So at Werribee, to get this clear, the main campaign point was when the suburban rail loop will turn up there, which is 2067. Rick. So that guy held on to his seat by the skin of his teeth, but he did it by promising a rail loop, which if someone is born today, they will be middle-aged when they can use it. I will not live to see the suburban rail loop in Werribee, or at least I'll be very lucky if I did. It was put my age like in the high 80s. It's not going to happen. So I think that there's a lot of gold to be mined there because they've been treated appallingly.
Mm.
They like, and once you listen to like someone like Adam Semurak, and you get your Malvern inner city Labor types in, they actively hate working class people.
Yeah, I know.
Genuine working class people, they hate their fucking guts.
Mm. Yeah, and I
So
hope the people in Victoria can realise that because we need 5 seats in Victoria, and I think it's
yeah, I
doable.
mean Victoria is a basket case. So like,
But it's been so strong for Labor for so long that we are due for a reversion to the mean. So I'm putting down 5 seats for
that's true.
Victoria.
Yeah,
On the other hand, Queensland has been strong for the Libs for a long time, but there are still 3 vulnerable seats in Queensland, which the Libs need to pick up.
I
Three
would
in
say
Perth
they're
and
going to
West
get
Australia.
Morton.
Yeah, I
They're
think,
going to
and
get
Lily.
Morton
I hope they
100%.
get Lily. I'm not a fan of Annika Wells. Yeah, I hope they get. And anyway, they need 3 in Queensland, 3 in WA. Boothby, I think Boothby is a slam dunk. I 100% think they're going to get
Yeah,
Boothby.
I can't remember that lady's name, Nicola something, isn't it?
Yeah, I remember the one
She's
you talked
good.
about. Yeah, Nicola, the skinny. She was based
Yeah,
as.
but she's a warrior.
Yeah,
I want her in Parliament because
yeah.
she'll be like a lower house parliamentarian, especially in a narrow majority situation.
Hmm.
She's the kind of person who will yank um, Dutton towards free
Flint,
speech.
Nicola Flint.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Alex Antic has taken hold of the Liberal Party in South Australia and whipped it into shape. So we might pick up more. Well, the Libs might pick up more, and they need to pick up these two in Tasmania as well, which I've been reading reports that, yeah, that there's a lot of scandals against the Labor government regarding salmon fishing and just like economic sort of issues. So
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
100% this is doable, and that's without any teal seats whatsoever. And then then the Libs pick up some teal seats as well.
Oh
It's
well, and
like,
we're taking. Look, I will put money on it right now. I'll put $100 on the Libs pick up Wentworth, Goldstein, and Kooyong.
yeah, that'd be good.
They are absolutely gettable.
Mm.
Absolutely gettable.
I agree.
Because
I agree.
the
Because
Libs
of the
got some
whole
horrific.
anti-Semitism issue, I think they're
Yeah.
slam dunks. Well, I hope so. As I said before, I have been pretty poor at predicting in the past, but
Yeah, those three I feel safe in saying. Allegra Spender is toast. There's absolutely no way. Like halfway, I kind of wish it wouldn't be Dave Sharma. I assume he's going to be the one to fight.
I don't think so. I
But
mean, he might have gone back to the. I don't know. I don't think it'll be
it'd be
Dave
interesting
Sharma.
to see who the Liberals are going to put forward there because I don't want Dave Sharma is too low energy.
Yeah, it's true.
I, you know what I mean? Like he's like
Ro Knox.
yeah, he's too low energy. Like don't get me wrong, he's a very smart guy. Um, Yeah, look
Oh.
at that yellow pin. Shots fired, Allegra. Shots fired.
What's that yellow pin stand for?
That's the that's a reference to the hostages.
Right, okay. And she looks of a Jewish ethnicity as well.
Oh yeah, I have no
Here we
idea.
go.
But yeah,
She studied
that,
international law at Hebrew University of Jerusalem. She is she
okay, yeah,
is
right. So she is
she's
Jewish, yeah.
she's Jewish. That's shots fired. I really hope Allegra Spandek, yeah, continues with the anti-Semitic comments and
Yeah,
meetings
yeah,
with
yeah.
Palestinian
She needs
activists.
to be hammering that daily. I would have my people out in the electorate door knocking saying, hey, Allegra Spender just met with someone who said these things about how amazing it is that Palestinians rape Israel. Um,
That's
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah, yeah. To be honest though, I'm still pretty black-pilled about the overall result. Um, don't get me wrong, like 16% is a big push, but we're talking like optimal conditions for the Liberal Party, and the Liberal Party couldn't get it over the line. Maybe not optimal, but as
In
close to
Werribee.
optimal as you're ever likely to get. So we've got that new Brad Cask leader, and maybe he couldn't whip the troops enough. But um, Moira Deeming was out there campaigning pretty hard. But she's only just been let back into the party, and her strategy, she's saying these are seats that we can have. These are gettable seats. Western Melbourne has been absolutely thumbed its nose at by the Labor Party. The Labor Party takes them absolutely for granted.
Mm,
Um, they can be got.
mm.
And John Pasuto, in his infinite wisdom, kicked her out the party and said, "No, we won't be having any of that." So hopefully Brad Cask has got, you know,
Yeah,
the
but that's
four
why.
IQ points required to realize that this can be done.
See, the general
Um,
public hasn't realised that there's even a new leader of the Liberal Party yet. They still think that peanut John Pasuto is the leader. That's
yeah,
why
and
that's why they
he
didn't
needs
win
to be out
Werribee.
there doing, yeah, he needs to be out there doing media pretty hard. Uh, I I can't see too much on his social media, not that I'm looking all that closely, but I would be out there daily, um, putting forward what you plan to do. Like, here's how I'm going to fix shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't really know. Look, I mean, I'll give him some cred in the sense that because he's got an easy thing to campaign on. It's not very hard to fix that anti-Semitism situation down here.
Mm.
I'm going to like, and in fact, uh, Islamic Palestinian Jihad had a flag of theirs flown on the weekend in
Hey,
Melbourne.
where's the 1 year mandatory sentencing?
Yeah, it's now been for 72 hours, no arrests. So this is why I've got like I Dutton needs to reverse course on that. He won't because he's just pushed it through. But there's not a chance in the world that they get my primary vote
So what
because
needs to happen is
exactly what I said happened was going to happen has happened. So we need our anti-Semitism's out of control. We need all these extortion new powers. If we didn't have these powers, how are we going to stop it? And then out comes open advocacy for a prescribed terror group. Oh, no, no, well, I haven't charged anyone. It was hard to see. We told the two Jews who were stupid enough to turn up to the city to move on because they were provoking the crowd. Uh, I was this close to giving Matt Guy a serve. Like this happened on Sunday. Have you spoken to the police commissioner yet? Why has there not been an arrest? We were told that you've got this whole new suite of powers to crack down on exactly this. So where's the arrests?
yeah.
What happened? What are you waiting for? You biding your time? Yeah, the law was bullshit. The law was bullshit. It really that simple.
Yeah.
We have an anti-Semitism problem because the Labor Party of Victoria refuses to stamp it out. That is what's going on.
Not just the
Albanese,
Labor Party of Victoria, also, Penny
oh no, the
Wong,
Labor Party of
Andrew
Australia.
Anthony Albanese. Yeah,
Yeah, Anthony
exactly.
Albanese.
Labor Party in South
Anthony
Australia.
Albanese is
Labor
on
Party
Team
in New
Public.
South Wales. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
that's what's happening. It's not complicated. They don't need new laws. They've got 1,001 laws that they could invoke if they want. Police are allowed just for public order to move people along. Never once happened. Never once happened. So don't give me this bullshit that we need to send people to jail for 7 years because someone feels like they're in danger. We've got more than enough police power in this country to take care of the problem. What it really needs is Albo to find his balls and his spine and say, we're not tolerating this.
Yeah. No, it's
But
just the
that's just
will.
not ever going to happen. It
You,
will not happen.
you make a decision not to accept anti-Semitism, and you don't have to worry about the laws. You use the laws that are already there, and you just prosecute that decision until
Yeah,
anti-Semitism. You don't
yeah.
need any more laws. Just do it. Just
One
make
thing
it
I would
clear.
say,
They won't.
here's what I would say to Dutton. You could flirt with my primary preference if you undertake to say, here are some new prescribed um, symbols. Displaying these symbols in public will get you 7 years in prison. Symbol number one, the hammer and sickle.
Fucking oath.
Symbol number two, that fist. Gesture number one, putting your fist in the air with your limp faggot little wrists. People who do that in public, 7 years in prison.
Yeah, no.
If you
Communism is
commit
as
to
evil
doing
as
that,
Nazism.
if you commit to doing that, well, they're not as bad as Nazis. They're a lot worse than Nazis. And not a little bit, orders of magnitude worse. Just by body count. Just by body count. But yeah, he won't do that because yeah, it won't happen. But
Well, the zeitgeist is just not turning in Australia quick enough like it is in America. And the reason why I will speculate is because, and I'm not an Murdoch guy. I've never said faux news or anything like that. But it is a fact that a reporter who was ex-US aide was hired by the Wall Street Journal last week for one purpose and one purpose only. That was to dig up dirt on the Doge team and to dox them. And she did that. She got one of them.
At the Wall Street Journal.
Wall Street Journal. Wall Street Journal. And she did that. And she doxed that guy, Big Balls, for making race
ever.
for making racist comments. He said that he said he could never be induced to marry outside of his ethnicity. How dare he? And he said that immigration should be eugenic, which is a hyperbolic way of saying, we want smart immigrants. We don't want the fucking dregs who are going to just like soak up welfare. But he said it a bit spicily. Anyway, he got fired.
Oh, but then he got rehired.
And then he got rehired. So cancel culture is over. But that goes back to my point, though. What was the Wall Street Journal hiring this? She was like a USA. She had worked for three of the four deep state organs, which is the State Department, USAID. There was another one, and then CIA is the last one, which she hadn't worked for. But she was basically a deep state operative, like a journalist. No, she was a deep state sort of operative.
Yeah, right. That's really interesting. Can you put flesh on the bones of this?
What do you mean? Do you want me to?
I will have to say, JD Vance has been just a revelation. I'm really glad that Dom Jr. threw his toys out the cot, saying it's JD or it's nobody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
this was here. She was a manager at USAID. What was her name? I forget her name. Yeah, this is her here, Catherine Long. Now she was also the one who doxed who's that hedge fund? Bill Ackman. She doxed Bill Ackman's wife during the Claudine Gay scandal. Remember when Bill Ackman was like going scorched earth on Claudine Gay? Well, this reporter, She then dug up dirt on Bill Ackman's wife. That was her there, Catherine Long. She's a deep state. She's a deep state
That's really
gooch
interesting.
man.
I'm confused about why the Wall Street Journal would hire
She was hired 2 weeks ago for one purpose and one person only, to go after Doge. And that's what I'm saying. Is Murdoch an agent of the deep state himself? And is that why the zeitgeist in Australia is slower to turn? We do have some great, I love the Outsiders
Oh, well,
show.
look, I will go out. I will say here that I find Sky News's attitude towards, as well as the Australian newspaper, its attitude towards the war in Ukraine, absolutely baffling.
Yeah.
I
Oh, the Australian has been
cannot
terrible.
explain.
So I remember the day
Like,
after I remember the day after Donald Trump selected JD Vance to be his running mate, Greg Sheridan wrote an enormous op-ed in the Australian, bawling his eyes out, like, "Oh, such a bad decision. Oh, JD Vance is the absolute worst person Trump could have picked." And I used to always have a lot of time for Greg Sheridan, but this is what I'm saying. Is
but
there
that's
some?
moronic. Yeah, JD Vance
He was the
is,
best pick. He was the best pick, not the
but
worst
yeah,
pick.
yeah, he's a future president, best placed, uh, best placed to ensure that um, if Trump is unable to get major legislative victories through, JD Vance is the best placed person on the planet to ensure that it doesn't get all undone by a series of executive orders day dot. So, because he's got the best shot of winning, but also being faithful to the vision. Um, but more than that, I cannot wrap my noodle around that. That is like, yeah, I again, like, I mean, Greg Sheridan has been a bit of a, how would I put it? He's a bit myopically focused on China, um, which, I can understand why, because obviously it's the most important geostrategic country in the world by far. So I understand that, but he does seem to believe, and this goes back to what we were talking about last week with the true state of the rules-based international order. So he is a genuine believer in that, and he really does seem to be very, you know, table thumpy about Putin's violated international law, rah 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 rah, um, and I don't. He's come of an age where the rules-based international order seems to have been some kind of like sick joke played on the American taxpayer. So
Mhm.
the American taxpayer foots the bill for everything in the rules-based international order, um, while the industrial heartland gets hollowed out through excessive free trade. Well, not even excessive free trade, just unrestricted
Offshoring.
combat.
Yeah, outsourcing.
But no, 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 no. That I mean, I've heard that Steve Bannon talking about unrestricted warfare is overselling it, but I don't think it is. I really don't. I think unrestricted. I think China's trade policy is a central part of its geostrategic mission. So probably co-equal with their military force, because their military force is actually the weaker of the two prongs at the moment.
Oh,
And they have a laser focused goal on displacing the US as the global hegemon.
yeah, that's true.
And
And I don't call it unrestricted warfare. I call it fifth generation warfare, and that includes
no,
trade.
no, no, have
Yeah.
you heard of unrestricted warfare though? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, I mean, I've heard of unrestricted submarine warfare in,
No,
in
no,
World
no.
War Two.
I'll find it for you. It's an essay written by a Chinese general. It's called Unrestricted Warfare,
Mm.
and it makes the case that a central plank has to be undermining America's economic might,
Yeah. So this is
because
fifth
that's the source
generation
of its
warfare.
fortune. Yeah.
It
but
includes
this is
cyber.
I don't
It includes
so
TikTok.
but
It includes the drug trade.
yes, yeah, yep,
This is
yep,
all. This
yes.
is all fifth generation warfare
These
or
are weapons that
unrestricted.
have been pointed at us.
Yeah,
Yes.
uh, unrestricted warfare is a good term for it. I'll have to read that essay, but yeah, it's
Oh,
similar
but this
similar
is
to
an
my kind
essay
of
from the
thinking.
70s. So the economic point, the economic part of it, getting into the WTO was part of a military strategy.
Hmm.
And normalization with China, trade normalization with China. So a lot of people say, oh, well, we've been trading with China since the 70s. Now, that's not true. That's a straight up lie. So Nixon did recognize the PRC
But
and was the first
they
president
had
to
no
do it.
economy. It was all destroyed during the fourth
Yeah,
cultural revolution. Their economy was completely
yeah.
destroyed.
And he did it in order to separate, to peel China off from Russia.
Russia.
That he had immediate geostrategic interests, which are still a game that the US needs to play. You can't have unified China and Russia,
Well, they are
which,
unified. Biden has driven them
oh yeah,
together. Biden
Biden
and Blinken
shat the bed on that about as bad
with
as you could.
Iran and North Korea, they're in a very tight alliance now. And then
Yeah,
that was a huge error, a huge unforced error.
yeah,
Exactly.
which is why I have so little respect for Greg Sheridan's opinion on on Ukraine.
Hmm.
Like you're on drugs, mate.
Well,
You're telling
Ukraine
me,
is a disaster. Ukraine is an
yeah,
absolute disaster. Look at this map. It's
you're telling me Eastern.
all along the front line. Russia is advancing. If they don't make peace soon, Kherson is going to fall, and then Odessa will fall. Look at that. They're
If
already doing
Odessa falls, that is the party over for Ukraine. It has
well.
run the country at that point.
They better make peace now and say, look, you can keep all of what you've got because if they don't, they're going to lose all of this. They're going to lose Kharkiv. Now, look at this. It's interesting. This is this is the part of Russia that Ukraine occupies. I think the Russians just let them keep it just for shits and giggles. But yeah,
Yeah, look,
all
I
of the
mean, and
area.
it's not. Here is what I would be pointing out to Greg Sheridan. Like, okay, sure, maybe in principle, uh, in some sort of a vague principle, there is a case to be made that invading a sovereign country is really super bad and naughty, and we shouldn't do it. That needs to be read against, in the last 20 years, the country that has invaded and sacked governments and claimed territory the most by
Mm,
far is the United States under the auspices of NATO. So let's keep that in mind.
mm,
But secondly, if you're going to if you're going to dig in and bet the farm on East Ukraine, what's your strategy to keep China and Russia apart?
mm.
How do you keep that wedge there while driving Russia into China's arms by refusing to allow economic participation?
Mm.
But how do you solve that problem? Because China and Russia being thick as thieves is a far worse geostrategic outcome than tearing Ukraine in half.
Mm.
Far worse. My attitude is sucks to be you, Ukraine. I'm sorry, but it's not worth nuclear Armageddon with Dragon Bear. I'm sorry.
Mm.
You're going to have
Look,
to learn it with Big Russia.
the black pill is it's already too late. The small white pill is Putin is much more moderate than whoever replaces him is going to be.
Oh, yes.
That's the white pill. We have a tiny sliver of opportunity, right now. If we just go, oh, Putin's bad, Putin, Hitler,
Mm.
when he goes, someone
I swear
much
to God,
worse will
another
take
thing that
power.
would be another thing if I was in charge of the new hate speech laws, 14-year mandatory sentences for journalists who refer to Germany 1930s. Find another fucking frame of reference, you
Yeah,
ignorant,
I
low
agree.
IQ, unread buttholes.
I can get with that. We'll make Godlin's law a statute, and then instead of you're wrong, is you go to jail.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that.
It's eerily like 1930s Germany. See fascist. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Let's
it's
talk a little bit
overdone.
more about 1930s Germany because one similarity is that you guys really like pedophilia, and so did the 1930s Berliners. They
Yeah,
really liked pedophilia.
yeah, and
Um,
that's where the transgenderism science began as well
yeah,
in the Weimar
yeah.
Republic. So yeah, let's. I think if we start drawing comparisons, it's gonna yeah. It's, anyway,
But
let's not though because it's yeah.
oh, yeah, no, because it's tawdry and idiotic, and Eastern Russia is
It's
nothing like
trite.
Germany.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
exactly. And Putin is not Hitler. Putin is is an ex-KGB agent who is trying to make Russia great again. Just like, Donald Trump wants to make America great again. Now, did we need to antagonize? We can see where he's coming from. Russia is a great power. It's entitled to its sphere of influence. It just is. They beat Hitler, they beat Napoleon. They're entitled to a buffer zone. Sorry, they are. And if you
yeah. Well, and more importantly than entitled to, they are going to fight over it.
Well, exactly. They're a great
But
power.
are you willing to fight over it? Because they've proven that they're going to fight over it. So are you willing to fight over it? My
Oh,
answer is no. I don't give a fuck about Western Ukraine. Not one fuck is given. And the amount of money I'm willing to spend on where the border is drawn there is $0.
mm. And what's
That's
worse,
that's the correct amount of money to be spending on that problem.
this conflict has battle hardened the Russian army in the precepts of 21st century warfare to the extent where America could not compete. America is in no state
Hey,
to fight a
I am
21st
gonna
century.
I'm gonna call bollocks on that.
So Musk said that the current strategy, Elon Musk said this, is to spend
In
a lot of
all
money.
due deference to Musk, no, no. Musk has been talking about hypersonics, and my answer to you, I think,
Drone warfare.
drone warfare is more scary. But did you know that um, uh, the US has laser Aegis capability deployed now? So it's got a laser cannon. That's its primary weapon.
That's cool.
So hypersonics are a 1970s technology. I'm gonna. There's a the fellow's name is Albert AM Live Mon. He's well worth a follow on Twitter. Very very switched on this stuff. Hypersonics. Hypersonics. Yeah, theoretically they move super duper fast, Mach 24 or whatever. What they won't tell you about hypersonics though is that there's no guidance. So the US had hypersonics in the late 60s and they stopped using them because ICBMs are just better. So to push something through the air at Mach 24, plasma forms around
Mm,
the projectile. Radio waves can't get in. So it's got no way to steer. So
mm.
yeah, you can shoot them wildly in every direction, but you can't shoot a carrier. A carrier can a modern carrier has an effective combat range of something like 1,000 miles. They can't aim those things 1,000 miles. They're just spraying them randomly into the Pacific Ocean.
Mm.
And let's not keep in mind the aircraft carriers can move. They're not just sitting there. So there's no way to arm them. The drone stuff is scary. And on that front, I think you're right. The stuff that's happening to the tanks in Ukraine, that is mind blowing.
We'll have to leave it.
Whole,
We'll have to leave our
holy,
discussion on naval warfare and tank warfare for another day. We're about to get kicked off. But yeah, thanks for that discussion, Stu. Let's speak again next week and let's come up with a solution for